So although you might not have structured weights at home like barbells, kettlebells, dumbbells, you can use whatever you have got at home as any kind of resistance, as that's all it is just extra resistance. So you can use things like rucksacks. If you've got a rucksack at home, easily changeable, you can treat it like a weighted vest, you can fill it full of stones, tins, etc., make it heavier or lighter as you need to. You've got other kind of bags, potatoes, coal, garden bags that you can fill full of stuff and use them kind of to the weight that you need them to be. People, you can chuck children, your own children on your back, partners, you know, for things like squats, etc. You can use rocks in your garden, tins, stuff that you've got at home in your cupboards, you can use those especially for the exercises where you don't need quite as much weight. Water bottles, which obviously you can still fill with sand as well, make them a little bit heavier. And then if you have got access to things like bands and sliders, medicine balls, obviously you can use those at home as well. In terms of exercises that we'll use for home sessions, we want to try and keep it as similar as possible to a lot of the stuff that we do here at the studio. Now, obviously we're not going to be able to use heavy weights at home because you probably haven't got access to those. So our exercise selection is going to be a little bit different, but it will still be a lot of the same principles and movements that you will have done here in the studio anyway. We're going to start with a squat and bent over row variation. We're then going to move into a single leg deadlift and press up variations. In our third superset is going to be a little bit of arm work. And then in our fourth, we're looking at upper back and core work. Each of these supersets, you're looking at around 3 to 4 sets each with about 1.5 minutes rest in between. First up in our superset is a squat variation. So if we can, we're keeping this as similar as possible to a back or front squat like we do with a barbell or a goblet squat. If you've got enough weight to do so, this is a great variation. A person's very handy. If you haven't got enough weight, you can go for a split squat variation instead. So loading up the front leg, keeping a lot of weight through the heel of the front foot. So the second exercise of this first superset is a bent over row variation. You can see here I'm trying to mimic using dumbbells or a barbell with a band. Obviously the resistance is a little bit less here, but I'm really utilising that squeeze in the top position. Or in the same way that you'd use a dumbbell for a single arm bent over row variation, you can do the same thing here if you have access to something with a handle. Next up is a single leg deadlift. And similar to the bent over row, this is best done with something with a handle if you have access to it. We're using the same principles as if we were using a barbell or a dumbbell, in that we're hinging from the hips and not allowing the weight to pull us forwards. With a press up variation, I like to raise the angle of my feet, which makes it a lot harder, a little bit more of a shoulder focus, although the alternative you have here is to go for a standard press up but add some weight to your back. Fan favourite superset up next, we've got some arm work. So starting with bicep curls, you can see here I've just loaded some weights into a rucksack, put a towel through the top strap and use that as a handle. Next up we got dips, make sure you use a stable surface. So our last set of exercises starts with plank passes, really good core stability exercise here. So you're using light weights and bringing them from one side to the other. Your aim is to use your stomach to keep your hips as steady as you can, and a wider base of the feet will make that a little bit easier. So once you've kicked off any animals that are trying to hump your leg, we then move into the YT pulses. So here you keep the arms straight, chest on the floor, and you're just trying to bring the arms up from the shoulder blades. Same thing with the T pulses, arms are straight and using the shoulder blades to create the movement.